Welcome back in. It is Priority Talk Radio and Podcast. Greg Davis here with you. And we continue in a very special series of segments visiting with Les Bernal. He is the executive director of the national organization Stop Predatory Gambling. He's been in our state, and he has sat down with me in studio to cover what really are a lot of the facts and the myths of gambling. And of course, here in Alabama, at the time of these recordings, we are just getting ready to head into a 2024 legislative session where, for various motives and reasons, the gambling industry, along with legislators, are making a move. Many are making a move to take Alabama from probably the state in the country with the least amount of gambling, or at least right at the least, to just get up on par with many other states that have been doing illegal gambling for years, or been doing gambling for years and years and years. And part of the ruse of that is that because there is illegal gambling going on in the state, that maybe it's time we regulate it and tax it and control it and all this kind of stuff. Les, you've heard that argument before in other states as you work all over the country. This isn't the first time this play has been come out of the playbook, is it?
Yeah, because what your listeners need to understand is no inherent grassroots movement for commercialized gambling, whether it's for lotteries, brick and mortar, casinos, or online gambling. So what the lobbyists need to do is create this artificial narrative, this phony narrative that somehow is happening everywhere, and so we might as well just do it because there's no grassroots movement for it. So here's what the reality is: this. There's no evidence from any jurisdiction over the last 50 years in America that illegal gambling goes down with the introduction of legalized gambling. And it makes sense why that's the case, right? This idea that somehow by normalizing commercialized gambling, what you're doing is you encourage more and more people to participate in it. So, historically, you'd have cops go break up the rings of there were illegal gambling machines or there was illegal bookmaking. The cops would go and break it up. Now, in many states where they've had, where commercialized gambling has been entrenched, promoted by the state for a long time, local law enforcement now sees it as a revenue issue. It's not a issue of the law anymore. Like, if you're an illegal operator, like, you love the introduction of legalized gambling because you bring in these machines. You don't have to pay taxes to the state. You can give people better odds. You can lend money. Like, so in all these states, like New Jersey and elsewhere, they keep saying, "Oh, legalizing this is going to wipe it out." It's just a phony narrative. And I think just to put the exclamation point on that, a year ago at this time, the New York Times did a front page series around the rollout of online gambling in this country, how it happened. It was the Sunday before Thanksgiving of 2022. And in that series, they just they unmasked the phony lobbying campaign that was led by the National Lobbying Association for the Gambling Industry, which is known as the American Gambling Association, and the known as the AGA. The AGA created this whole phony narrative for illegal gambling to create this fake momentum, right, that we needed, that this is somehow going to wipe it out. Well, guess what one of the top priorities are today for the AGA? Oh, we need the Department of Justice to crack down on all this illegal gambling happening. Well, you know what? You've been claiming that legalizing all these forms of gambling was going to reduce illegal gambling. Why would we have this raging problem of illegal gambling in our country today if legalized gambling wiped it out? So that's another reason why the public policy of legalized gambling has been an epic policy failure. Like, you don't have the Alabama, state police lobbying for to legalize gambling here. They're not the one. You don't have the FBI testifying before the legislature saying, "Hey, you know what the solution is to?" Like, it's nonsense. It's the only people saying this narrative is the gambling industry itself, the gambling industry lobbyists, and the legislators who carry the water for them in the legislature. The same cookie cutter campaign that you're seeing here in Alabama, like, this has happened in every state. It's the same phony narrative. It's recycled in state after state. So it's just a ruse because there's no, it's part of the con that somehow illegal gambling is going to be wiped out. It's already legal for Alabamans to place a bet with each other in this, and so we can already do that. What's illegal is I can't run my own casino, I can't run my own lottery, and I can't run my own online sports book, and that's because it's a con. It's a form of financial fraud. Okay, that's why it's illegal. I can't run it, but if individually, I can do it separately.
But if the government wants to run it, then with
their
partners, then they allow themselves to do it.
And the reason why it's prohibited, and the reason why you have your constitutional amendment on it, is because it's a con. It's a business that's based on exploiting your neighbor.
Well, going forward in this discussion, we're going to sort of frame around myths regarding gambling, and I guess we could almost say, Les, myth number one is that legalizing gambling doesn't reduce the amount of gambling in any state.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a myth.
And
look, and I hear that argument often. If we just can do what we want to do coming up this spring, then we will have less gambling in the state than we do now. I've heard that, but it's not true. People who break the law continue to break the law. They just do it in different ways. You just create a whole new game for them to play. And so the illegal gambling still happens.
Yeah. So here's how I'd frame it for your listeners, just to make it sink home. When you have state governments, partner with the gambling industry, of which Alabama thus far has not done, but if they do, this is what it's like. It's like putting Dracula in charge of the blood bank, right? Mm-hmm. So Georgia, which is your neighboring state, they have $50 scratch-off tickets in low-income communities where citizens make $7.25 an hour. Georgia's selling online lottery tickets, okay, right on their website, when they have cartoon-like figures, okay, with like ladybugs and cats and dogs. Like, who do you think these cartoon-like graphics are geared to? A senior citizen? They're geared to kids, to normalize gambling. So this idea that somehow bringing this in is going to protect citizens, it's a lie. Like, just look at how states, and I put this in quotes, look at how states regulate gambling now. They're exempt from truth in advertising regulations under the Federal Trade Commission. No state attorney general in the United States has ever brought consumer protection litigation against a gambling operator. Okay, and the reason for that is because states are a partner to it. It'd be like suing itself. So anything goes. That's why right now you have people making, when it comes to online gambling, you have citizens making more than 100 bets a day. Okay, 100 bets a day on a government program. Like, they're feeding on addiction. 86% of the online gambling profits come from 5% of the players. For lottery games, 70 to 80% of lottery profits come from 10% of the people who play the lottery. And that's why states go from, $1 a ticket, and now they're pushing $50 scratch-off tickets. Mm-hmm. States are pushing, they have something called Keno in states where they have 2,000 games a week, every 4 minutes, from like 5 a.m. to 2 a.m. Okay, like, who are we doing this for? Okay, that's right. This has been an epic policy failure. Gambling is the public voice of government today. It's part of the center of American life.
Well, let's mention states who set up a commission to oversee legalized gambling and to stop illegal gambling in a state, because that's really what we're hearing a lot of. We've recently just set up a medical marijuana commission here. And for anybody that keeps up with the news, that has been an absolute disaster, okay, because of all the lawsuits and the greed going along with that industry. And gambling, even, I would say, even more so, potentially. How do these gambling commissions, what's been your experience with those around the country?
Yeah, again, I go back to the phrase I just said a couple minutes ago. When state governments partner with the gambling industry, it's the equivalent of putting Dracula in charge of the blood bank. So the role of these gambling commissions is a lot of fanfare. Say, we're going to do consumer protections, and I put that in quotes. Again, they're not protecting you, the citizen. The way the states make money from this is they need you to lose as much money as possible. So that's why they're selling $50 scratch-off tickets. Texas sells $100 scratch-off tickets. Right. Casinos are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The only thing that was open during all the controversy around COVID in America when state government shut down, the one government program that kept running during that whole time, and they had record sales in April of 2020. Guess what it was? It was state lotteries. Yep. Okay, Georgia, Texas, all these other states, they had record lottery sales because people received their stimulus checks from the government, and they're financially desperate. They played in the lottery. They don't. Why were lotteries running in that window? Like, where's the public benefit of that? They were just doing to exploit citizens as much as possible. Well, so gambling commissions are there to aid and abet the industry. They don't represent the citizen. They're there to foster. They represent the voice of the gambling industry.
And I would imagine from an enforcement standpoint, especially enforcement of illegal gambling. Regulation's one thing. Regulation is controlling what's legal. Enforcement is what you do when something's illegal. Illegal gambling will continue to happen even if there's a commission. And I would imagine it probably wouldn't be uncommon for these commissions to become corrupt and be bought off to ignore illegal gambling operations that will continue to happen underneath the radar.
Again, they're
corrupt.
Yeah, the whole system is a con. Okay, the whole. Again, whether it's they don't regulate to protect the citizen. They only regulate to make sure the state gets its fair cut. And so that's why the business practices that are allowed for commercialized gambling operators are business practices that no other business can get away with. If I'm in a local insurance broker, I can't give you a bottle of vodka and get you drunk and have you sign insurance policy papers.
But they can do it in the casino.
Casinos, it's anything goes.
They'll give you the alcohol.
It's part of the it's part of the business.
Yeah. All right. Les Bernal is with us with StopPredatoryGambling.org. This is a series of segments, so continue listening, radio, podcast, or video. And we'll be right back. And with this next segment, we're going to talk about these video lottery terminals, or better known around here as electronic bingo machines, which are illegal. But let's talk about these. Are they safe? Are they harmless, as a lot of people seem to think they are? We'll talk about that and the effect of gambling on people's personal wealth. All right, it's Priority Talk Radio. Greg Davis here. We'll be right back.